Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Let's get started. Our top focus tonight, the fight for control over the Strait of Hormuz has escalated, bringing West Asia back to the brink of war. In the latest, Trump has threatened to blow Iran off the face of the earth if it attacks US vessels. We are decoding all the key developments that are putting that fragile ceasefire at serious risk. Also, the show for you tonight, we tell you all about a major development taking shape in India's neighborhood. According to Chinese media, Beijing is ready to export to Pakistan its powerful J-35A stealth fighter jet. We decode that and get you the details. Also, the mystery over alleged disappearance or death of 11 US scientists is deepening. It has now been claimed that this pattern may go back decades. All this and more coming up. As the deadlock between the US and Iran continues, the fight for the control of the Strait of Hormuz has only escalated. In fact, Donald Trump announced that the US shot down 7 Iranian fast boats, a claim that was denied by Tehran. On the other hand, the UAE has said it is currently dealing with missile and drone attacks originating from Iran. The fragile ceasefire is at serious risk, to say the least. Earlier, US President Donald Trump urged South Korea to join America's Project Freedom after accusing Iran of attacking a South Korean cargo ship. Seoul also confirmed a fire and explosion with 24 crew members on board that vessel. Later, Trump told Fox News that an Iranian strike on US vessels would be met with overwhelming force, warning that Iran would be blown off the face of the earth, quote unquote. Meanwhile, the US Secretary of War stressing that Project Freedom is defensive in nature and that Washington is not looking for a fight. Also asserting control over Hormuz, he said that hundreds of ships are lining up to transit this strategic waterway.
To what remains of Iran's forces, if you attack American troops or innocent commercial shipping, you will face overwhelming and devastating American firepower. The president has been very clear about this.
Additionally, General Kane emphasizing that US forces are ready to resume combat operations against Iran if ordered to do so. Listen in.
Beyond Project Freedom, CENTCOM and the rest of the joint force remain ready to resume major combat operations against Iran if ordered to do so. No adversary should mistake our current restraint with a lack of resolve.
A day earlier, Iran's state media claimed that its 2 missiles hit a US warship after it ignored warnings. It added that this forced the warship to turn back and prevented its entry in Hormuz. While CENTCOM denied any of its ships being hit, reports suggested that 2 US Navy destroyers faced a series of missile and drone attacks from Iran. Iran, though, remains defiant, and its parliament speaker stated that the new equation of the Strait of Hormuz is in the process of being solidified, accusing the United States of jeopardizing security of shipping via the naval blockade. He claimed that continuation of the status quo is intolerable for the United States. On Monday, the UAE came under attack for the first time since the declaration of the ceasefire. Smoke was seen rising from the Fujairah oil refinery. According to the country's defense ministry, its air defense systems engaged 12 ballistic missiles, 3 cruise missiles, and 4 drones launched from Iran, resulting in injuries to 3 Indian nationals. Strongly condemning the attacks, Prime Minister Modi made it clear that targeting civilians and infrastructure is unacceptable, reiterating support for peaceful resolution of issues. He called for ensuring safe and unimpeded navigation through Hormuz. And amid the threat of the war resuming, reports suggest that a top Israeli official asked defense firms to ramp up the production of Arrow interceptor missiles, having a range of up to 2,400 kilometers. This anti-ballistic missile can basically intercept missiles fired by Iran from hundreds of miles away. And this assumes significance, of course, as Iran reportedly fired 650 missiles at Israel during the 40 days of the war, out of which 77 missiles struck targets. Those numbers on your screen. Now, despite claiming to have decimated Iran's military in the ongoing war, US intelligence assessments reportedly indicate that Iran's timeline to build a nuclear weapon remains unchanged from last year. While the US claimed to have obliterated Iran's nuclear sites of Natanz, Fordow, and Isfahan, this remains unverified, as the IAEA, remember, has been unable to ascertain the whereabouts of 440 kilograms of enriched uranium. And according to reports, US estimates that Tehran can build a nuclear bomb in about 9 months to a year. And while Trump has downplayed attacks on the UAE for now, it remains to be seen whether the US and Israel continue to hold back from restarting attacks on Iran. To put it simply, West Asia continues to remain on edge. Let's now shift our focus to South Asia, where a major development is taking place in India's neighborhood. According to Chinese media, Beijing is ready to export to Pakistan its powerful J-35A stealth fighter jet, a move that could potentially redraw the air power balance in South Asia. A lot of implications at play. China's state broadcaster has, for the first time, showcased what reportedly appears to be the export version of the advanced 5th-generation fighter jet, the J-35A. The J-35A. Analysts in China believe Pakistan is poised to receive this aircraft. And according to Chinese media, a J-35A jet was spotted in a hangar marked with the logo of the Aviation Industry Corporation of China. The aircraft reportedly carried the branding of the state-owned manufacturer in English instead of the Chinese Air Force logo. Reportedly, that's a major indication that this version is meant for export. This is the first full operational reveal of the export model. Chinese military experts claiming that the aircraft is a complete ready-for-sale product. The jet comes equipped with advanced stealth features, including a modern electro-optical targeting system designed to basically evade infrared tracking and multi-spectrum detection. The J-35A jet has a combat range of around 1,200 kilometers, speeds exceeding 2,200 kilometers per hour, and can fly at altitudes up to 16,000 meters. And in terms of firepower, the J-35A can carry multiple air-to-air missiles, supersonic air-to-surface weapons, and precision-guided bombs, making it ideal for multi-role combat. Reports say Pakistan has signed a deal to acquire around 40 of these stealth fighters as part of a broader defense package with China. If confirmed, this would mark China's first ever export of a fully stealth-capable combat aircraft. Defense ties between Beijing and Islamabad have been deepening recently. In fact, images circulating in just June last year showed a Pakistani pilot training inside a J-35 cockpit. And this development comes as China already dominates Pakistan's arms imports. And according to think tank CIPRI data, up to 80% of Pakistan's arms imports between 2021 and 2025 originated in China. And the Pakistan Air Force also currently operates Chinese origin J-10C and jointly produces JF-17 jets with Beijing. For India, the potential J-35A export to Pakistan could potentially create a scenario where it faces dual-front stealth challenges perhaps on its borders, one that is likely to result in India perhaps recalibrating its defense strategy as New Delhi prepares its indigenous fifth-generation stealth fighter jet. Switching gears, Russia has issued a deadly warning to Ukraine. It has threatened of mass attack on Kiev if its self-imposed ceasefire is violated on Victory Day. That major warning to Ukraine also coming as the Ukrainian president has announced a separate ceasefire amid the strikes. Here's a detailed report.
Russia is combining long-range precision weapons and attack drones to strike Ukraine's military-industrial sites and energy infrastructure. Days ahead of the Victory Day parade and announcement of its ceasefire, Russia is hammering Ukraine. In the latest assault, Russia has struck the heart of Chernihiv. Ukrainian authorities say a Russian drone has hit an administrative building and has set nearby vehicles ablaze. Moscow claims the Ukrainian army has lost over 1,200 troops in frontline battles in the last 24 hours. But Ukraine is sending out a loud message. With its increasing offensive capabilities, the Ukrainian military is carrying out precise strikes deep inside Russia. These are the images of a military facility in Cheboksary, nearly 1,500 kilometers inside Russia, engulfed in flames. In a bold admission, Zelensky confirms that Ukraine used long-range Flamingo cruise missiles to target facilities linked to Russia's drone and missile production. These facilities host components tied to Shahed and Iskander systems. This marks one of Ukraine's deepest known strikes into Russian territory, a move that signals Ukraine's growing capability to hit strategic targets far from the front line. The Ukrainian president describes the strikes as a response to ongoing Russian attacks. Zelensky warns Ukraine's long-range capabilities will continue to be used against military targets until Putin engages in real diplomacy.
Furthermore, this is Russia's war against Ukraine, and therefore America and Russia are discussing a ceasefire. What kind of ceasefire do they have? It is important that our side knows what they are agreeing on.
As the fighting rages, Kyiv declares that it will halt hostilities earlier than the truce window outlined by the Kremlin. But people in Moscow are skeptical. They are divided if there will be a real ceasefire.
It's up to our authorities to sort the security. I cannot be in constant stress. That is how I feel. I also feel that our authorities and leadership don't do enough in protecting us. There is no sense being in constant stress, because if something strikes on me, it will just strike and I can do nothing with it. But the authorities can, so I have a request for them to do it.
I think it is unlikely that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky will keep the ceasefire. Everything, drones, etc., that flew before, will fly. But we have the sense of security. I am there at frontline, and I see it myself.
The battlefield is expanding, and so are the stakes. As ceasefire calls compete with continued strikes, the path to peace remains uncertain, and the war shows no clear signs of slowing down. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
The May 4 election results in India were not just about numbers, but also about the mood, the narrative, the memes, and a lot more. And as the verdict poured in from West Bengal, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Assam, Puducherry, social media turned into a barrel counting center in a way, tracking every swing, every upset, every landslide victory or defeat with a lot of humor and instant reactions. West Bengal was the one state that clearly dominated the online conversations as the BJP scored that historic victory in West Bengal. In fact, timelines were flooded with a lot of creative takes and reactions. The one coming up on your screen featuring two images of football legend Messi from his two previous visits to Kolkata, one from 2011 and another from 2025. The humor is in the coincidence, purportedly. Shortly after his visit in 2011, remember, West Bengal saw a historic political shift when Mamata Banerjee led the Trinamool Congress to end the left front's 3-decade rule. And now, in 2026, users are having a lot of fun joking that history had repeated itself, linking Messi's visit once again to a regime change in the state. But the memes also tapping into a recent controversy. During Messi's 2025 visit to Kolkata, chaos erupted, remember, at the Salt Lake Stadium when fans were unable to get a clear view because of the overcrowding and a cluster of VIPs around him. And they expressed their anger by tearing seats and throwing objects onto the field. The incident sparked massive outrage, prompting Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee to issue an apology and eventually leading to the resignation of the state sports minister. This is what had happened back then. Another viral post took a different approach using a simple visual metaphor. It showed two people at a press conference. One person sat quietly and almost ignored in a way, and he was labeled as Assam, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, and Puducherry. The other surrounded by hordes of microphones, captioned West Bengal. And this paints, in a way, the spotlight and the attention that the West Bengal elections have been under. All right, cutting straight across to U.S. President Donald Trump speaking.
100%. No, I think that you're going to see some very interesting things. The filibuster, if you had it, we should have the Save America Act. We should have voter identification, voter ID. We should have proof of citizenship. We should have mail-in voting for the military and people that need it, but not for everybody. Because anytime you have mail-in voting, they're going to cheat. And they cheat like dogs. And they have to cheat. You know, in all fairness to the Democrats, when you have men and women sports, when you have open borders, when you have transgender mutilization, don't listen to this, kids, of your children, transgender mutilization of your children for everyone. When you have policies like that, you have to cheat. It's the only way they can win. And we shouldn't allow them to cheat. And we should terminate the filibuster, because if they get the chance, they'll do it in the first hour back.
So, Mr. President, thank you. When Iran is seeing 50% inflation, they've moved money from their sovereign
Their economy is crashed.
Would you allow their financial system then to fail?
Well, I guess so, because we're making it fail, right?
Is that what it takes?
I hope it fails.
Is that what it takes?
You know why? Because I want to win. No, it takes getting pounded on by the military, I think, for more. But in addition to that, it is failing. You know, we have sanctions on them, tremendous sanctions. Scott Bessent's done a great job. We have sanctions that nobody's ever seen before. No, they're failing. Their currency is worthless. Their inflation is probably 150%. The real number is 150%. They aren't paying their soldiers. They can't pay their soldiers. The money is worthless. No, they should do the smart thing, you know. They should do the smart thing, and because we don't want to go in and kill people. We really don't. I don't want to. It's too tough. Great people. I know the people. I have so many Iranian friends from New York and from other places over the years. They're great people. I don't want to I don't want to kill those
Gas
people.
prices in the United States are.
Incident yesterday. Is it possible that you can talk about that?
Well, wait, go ahead, finish
Yeah,
it.
gas prices in the United States are $1.48 cents a gallon.
Oh,
You said they would come back down.
Oh, they will.
Will Project
They'll drop
Freedom-
lower than they were before.
Will Project Freedom, escorting those ships, make that happen?
Well, it will, because so people don't realize some of these tankers hold 2 million barrels. One of them holds 4. I think it's the largest one in the world. That sucker is big. I've never seen anything like it. A ship, it's bigger than aircraft carriers, and yeah, it has a big impact. It's so much. You know, there are like 400 ships in there. 400. That in itself. Now, the best is when it ends and just neutralizes. But what's happening is people are learning to buy oil from the United States. I mean, they're making the trip, and they have safer. Probably it's a better product too, by the way. But they're learning to buy. They're changing their habits. So when I did this, I thought the market would go down 25%, and I thought that was a great deal if it did. If it went down 25%, I was satisfied. I said, because we cannot let these people have a nuclear weapon. They'll use it. We can't. I also thought oil would go up to 200, 250, maybe 300, and I knew it would be short term, but I thought it would go. I looked today; it's like at 102, and that's a very small price to pay for getting rid of a nuclear weapon from people that are really mentally deranged. Yeah.
President, just on politics.
The world is lucky. By the way, other presidents should have done this. 47 years they've been toying with these stupid people. In many cases, stupid people. This should have been done by Obama. He went the other way. He was giving them cash. He sent plane loads of Boeing 757, took the seats out, and put green cash, $1.7 billion in the plane. Every bank in Virginia, D.C., and Maryland was stripped of their cash. They took out all the cash from the banks. They put it into a plane, a Boeing 757 packed with cash, and they flew it to Iran, and they let these guys just, I don't know what the hell they did with it, but they took it and then gave them billions and billions of dollars and bribed them basically to be friends. And after giving them tens of billions of dollars, they screwed Obama, okay? That's not the way we play. No, we do it the old-fashioned way. And they should wave. They're very proud. Maybe you won't see a white flag, but essentially that's already what they are. They should wave the white flag of surrender. In hockey, they say, "Uncle," right? When are they gonna cry "Uncle"? But, and they have another expression. If this were a fight, they would stop it. But you know, we have to go out and we have to do it, and it's very sad to see. Even shooting those boats, they've got 3, 4 guys. They got a little machine gun in front. They're shooting at one of our ships that's meant for it. It bounces, they don't even know they're being shot at. And then they take it out with an Apache helicopter in about 2 seconds. They go, Apache, ship, northwest 10 degrees. Turns around, boom. I don't like that, you know? You lose people. All these people, it's so unnecessary. It's so unnecessary. One thing we have the greatest military in the world. I built it because I built it in my first term. I didn't think I'd be using it, at least so much.
So essentially, U.S. President Donald Trump taking questions and reiterating and claiming once again that the U.S. has control over the Strait of Hormuz and nobody can challenge that blockade. Also, essentially, his message is that Iran wants a deal but continues to play games, is what he's saying. But we are shifting focus and staying on with news coming in from the United States. The mystery over alleged disappearance or deaths of 11 U.S. scientists reportedly linked to UFO research since 2022 continues to baffle people and trigger serious concern. And now in a major development, and to add to that concern, it has now been claimed that this pattern may go back decades. Take a look.
$11 U.S. scientists working in different fields such as nuclear and UFO research have vanished or been found dead since 2022. US President Donald Trump has vowed answers. Federal agencies, led by FBI, have intensified their probe. UFO researchers Timothy Hood and Nigel Watson have reportedly claimed that the series of deaths related to UFOs go back decades. The first incident they refer to dates back to 1947. Harold Dahl and his boss Fred Chrisman claim to have spotted unidentified flying objects over the sky over Maury Island in Washington. Controversy gained ground as two Air Force officers in charge of investigating this incident died in a plane crash. Dahl was reportedly told to remain silent on the UFO sighting. Years later, Chrisman was questioned in connection with the assassination of President Kennedy. The next case occurred in 1968. New York-based UFO researcher Jennifer Stevens said she was contacted by two boys who claimed to have seen a glowing fireball over the Mohawk River. According to UFO researcher Stevens' husband, Peter was accosted by a man who allegedly said people who look out for UFOs should be careful. Shortly afterwards, he died suddenly, and Jennifer Stevens retired from UFO investigations. Reports say writer Otto Binder claimed that 137 UFO investigators died under mysterious circumstances during the 1960s. Another incident was reported in January 1996 when UFO researcher Philip Schneider was found dead in his apartment after claiming threats to his life. Now, who are the US scientists whose death or disappearance since 2022 sparked speculation that they might have been targeted by America's enemies? This includes Amy Scridge, a scientist attempting to develop anti-gravity technology. In 2022, she was found dead with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. A year later, NASA researcher Michael David Higgs was found dead. Come 2024, NASA scientist Frank Maywald died under mysterious circumstances. This is not all. In 2025, former Los Alamos employee Anthony Chavez went missing after leaving home. This was followed by the disappearance of aerospace executive Monica Reza, who went on a hiking trip in California. Another Los Alamos employee, Melissa Kessler, also disappeared. Similarly, government contractor Steven Garcia stepped out carrying a handgun and was never seen again. In December 2025, Novartis researcher Jason Thomas disappeared, with his body found from Massachusetts Lake in March this year. In the same month, nuclear physicist Nuno Loureiro was shot dead at home. Additionally, astrophysicist Carl Grillmer, who collaborated with NASA, was also killed. The last case of disappearance dates back to February 27th when retired Air Force General William McCasland vanished from his home. His wife even admitted that he had a brief association with the UFO community. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
And before we go on any further, a quick look at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. According to a report, slavery in the UK is at record levels and is expected to worsen over the next decade. We get you the details. This is coming up next. Telling you all about the rare Hunter virus outbreak linked to a cruise ship and what the WHO has said. What's the story behind a mysterious object in the coldest corner of our solar system? We tell you all that you need to know. All this and more coming up. Our next story is from the UK. Two recently published reports have thrown light on a rather uncomfortable reality in Britain. As per the Anticipating Exploitation report released by the UK's independent anti-slavery commissioner, slavery in the UK is at record levels and is expected to worsen over the next decade. The report basically put together research compiled by more than 50 different experts across law enforcement, government, civil society, and the charity sectors. Let's just take a closer look at the numbers. According to the report, over 23,400 potential victims of slavery were referred to the UK's National Referral Mechanism in the year 2025, and this is the highest ever number recorded. The numbers have seen a 25% increase as compared to 2024. The victims have nearly doubled in the last 5 years, considering that 12,691 cases were reported in 2021. And what about the nationalities of the victims? What's known about that? Reportedly, close to 20% were from the UK. Eritrean nationals were the second largest group, accounting for 13% of the victims. 13%, followed by Vietnamese nationals. The report held three key factors responsible: rising living costs, debt, and insecure work. It attributed an increase in numbers to not just better detection of slavery, but also worsening conditions in the UK and around the world. That's not all. The report also flagged increased use of digital labor in scam compounds, coercive labor in areas like agriculture and mining, and increase in reproductive slavery like enforced egg harvesting and surrogacy. In the wake of this, UK's anti-slavery commissioner urged the government to improve victim care and launch a national campaign for reporting exploitation. That's not all. Another report released by European Council's group of experts on action against trafficking in human beings also highlighted a steep rise in potential trafficking victims in the UK. It observed that more safeguards were required to prevent trafficking of people from vulnerable groups, including children, migrants, asylum seekers, and homeless people. In response, the UK Home Office termed slavery as a global scourge that exploits people for profit. It reiterated its commitment to improve the process of identifying victims, ensuring swift justice for them, and providing them with support to rebuild their lives. A succession battle reportedly building up inside Palestinian politics, and one name appears to be standing out: Yasser Abbas. According to a Reuters report, the 64-year-old businessman and son of the Palestinian president is preparing to step into a key leadership contest within the ruling Fatah party. And he is reportedly seeking a seat on Fatah's Central Committee. At an upcoming party conference in Ramallah later this month, Fatah's first major gathering in nearly a decade. Yasser Abbas has built his career in business, running tobacco and construction companies in parts of the Israeli-occupied West Bank governed by the Palestinian Authority. He is also known to control one of the West Bank's main cigarette importers. Allegations have reportedly long followed him and his brother, accusing them of benefiting from public resources to expand private business interests, allegedly, claims that they have consistently denied. Despite never holding an official position within Fatah or the Palestinian Authority, Yasser Abbas has remained close to the power centers. He has accompanied his father to high-level international meetings, including on a visit to Moscow last year when they met the Russian president and Egypt's president as well. And recently, Yasser Abbas also reportedly took on a role handling Lebanon-related affairs for the Palestine Liberation Organization. His expected political entry is allegedly fueling speculation that Mahmoud Abbas may be positioning his son as a successor, an idea that is reportedly dividing party ranks, with questions surrounding his leadership credentials, also his ability to unify Palestinians, above all, in helping them chart a new political future. We now shift our focus to Northeast Africa, where Sudan's fragile calm has been shattered once again. Sudan's armed forces have accused the UAE and Ethiopia of a drone attack on Khartoum's airport. This strike marks the latest escalation in a series of attacks that have rattled the capital after months of relative stability. Sudan has repeatedly claimed that the UAE supports the Rapid Support Forces, a charge that the Gulf nation denies. Earlier this year, Sudan also accused Ethiopia of stepping into the conflict. The UAE has so far not responded to these allegations. Ethiopia, however, has rejected Sudan's accusations, describing the claims as baseless. Ethiopia has further accused the Sudanese armed forces of arming anti-government mercenaries along its western frontier. Last Friday, strikes in the Sudanese capital hit both military as well as civilian zones, a city where normalcy had just started returning after the army regained control in March 2025. Witnesses reported that drones targeted Khartoum International Airport, a site that had only recently resumed international flights after a 3-year-long gap. And in a sharp diplomatic move, Sudan has now recalled its ambassador from Ethiopia, alleging that drones used in these attacks originated from Ethiopian territory.
Regarding Ethiopia, we have decided to recall our ambassador there for consultations, as is standard diplomatic procedure in such matters. We don't want enmity with anyone, but whoever attacks us should know that we know how to respond.
Not just that, the Sudanese army claimed it possesses evidence linking the attacks to Ethiopia's airport and to the UAE, pointing to a drone shot down in March, which it claims provided a direct link to the latest airport attack.
Data from the drone was analyzed, and we asked the manufacturer, and they said what follows. The drone, number S88, owned by the UAE and was used from within Ethiopian territory, Bahir Dar Airport.
The army spokesperson stated that the evidence proves foreign involvement and called it a clear violation of Sudan's sovereignty and international law. Some Sudanese locals reportedly believe the Rapid Support Forces carried out the attacks, although the group has not issued any statement. Sudanese authorities, meanwhile, say the airport suffered no damage and operations will resume after safety checks. But drone warfare continues to dominate this conflict, which the United Nations describes as the world's worst humanitarian crisis. The war, which started over a power struggle between the Sudanese army and the RSF, has already claimed at least 59,000 lives, with the real toll feared to be far higher. Moving on for now, a rare Hunter virus outbreak linked to a luxury cruise ship has been drawing global attention and serious concern. 2 Hunter virus cases have been confirmed so far, while 5 more are suspected of being infected by the virus. In fact, the World Health Organization says some human-to-human transmission may have occurred on board the ship. Listen in.
We do believe that there may be some human-to-human transmission that's happening among the really close contacts, the husband and wife, people who've shared cabins, etc. So again, our assumption is that has happened, and that's why we are operating and working with the ship to make sure that anyone who is symptomatic, anyone caring for patients is wearing full personal protective equipment.
Let's just tell you more about the illness, which carries a high fatality rate. It has claimed 3 lives. The cruise that now remains stranded was traveling from Argentina to Cape Verde. More than 150 people remain confined aboard the vessel off the West African coast after several individuals showed symptoms of the disease, prompting strict containment measures on board. And as the race to find the port for the cruise ship battling the deadly virus continues, Cape Verde announcing it has set up an isolation area and a multidisciplinary team in case passengers or crew of the cruise ship need assistance.
As I said, the hospital has already prepared an area with isolation capacity, should it be necessary, demonstrating our mobilization and response capabilities. A dedicated team has been formed with doctors, infectious disease specialists, nurses, and laboratory technicians to support patients on board and, if necessary, also on land.
Meanwhile, Spain says it will not decide whether to let the cruise ship with hantavirus cases dock until the epidemiological data analysis. The WHO has announced that Spain will welcome the ship with suspected hantavirus cases to the Canary Islands. The move will basically enable the health authorities to conduct full investigations, epidemiological investigations, also disinfect the vessel and assess the risks to the remaining passengers. Hantavirus refers to a group of viruses carried by rodents. And according to the US Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, infections arise when the virus becomes airborne from rodent urine, droppings, or saliva. The WHO reports hantavirus infections are linked to environment exposure to infected rodents' urine or feces and may spread between people, leading to severe respiratory illness. Far beyond the warmth of the sun, past the orbit of Neptune, and even beyond Pluto. A silent, frozen frontier, a place where time slows down, light fades, mysteries linger in the dark. And now astronomers believe they have uncovered something extremely extraordinary. Mysterious object in the coldest corner of our solar system that may have an atmosphere. Our next report telling you more.
In the vast emptiness of the Kuiper Belt, billions of icy objects orbit the Sun. These are remnants from the early solar system. Cold, ancient, and largely unexplored. Now, scientists studying one of these distant bodies have detected something unusual. When a tiny distant object named 2002 X393 passed in front of a distant star, the light did not snap back instantly. That subtle change has offered a key clue. A thin atmosphere surrounding the object has been discovered nearly 6 billion kilometers away from the Sun. Until now, only Pluto held that title among distant objects in the Kuiper Belt. Scientists say this finding is unexpected. At such far distances where gravity is very low, objects this small are not thought capable of holding onto gases for long. Researchers believe that the atmosphere, if confirmed, could be made up of gases like methane or nitrogen. This is similar to what has been observed on Pluto, but on a much smaller scale. One possibility is that the atmosphere is temporary, which is released by a recent impact or surface activity. Another possibility is that internal processes are slowly emitting gas into space. Either way, the implications are significant. This discovery could expand what scientists understand about how atmospheres form and survive in the outer reaches of our solar system. If confirmed, this would mark one of the smallest known objects ever found to have an atmosphere. This would challenge long-held assumptions about where and how these thin envelopes of gas can exist. A tiny world, billions of kilometers away, is offering a big reminder that space is full of surprises. While some debate making Pluto a planet again, space has added another contender to that conversation. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
A major climate shift is now underway, and it could have far-reaching consequences for the world. According to the World Meteorological Organization, an El Nino event is expected to develop by mid-2026. As the sea surface temperatures in the equatorial Pacific continue to rise rapidly, El Nino is a naturally occurring climate phenomenon marked by the warming of ocean waters in the central and eastern Pacific. It typically occurs every 2 to 7 years and lasts close to a year. But its global impact can be profound. It disrupts weather systems across continents, bringing heavier rainfall to parts of the Americas, Central Asia, and East Africa, while triggering drought conditions in regions like Australia, Indonesia, and parts of South Asia. El Nino also drives global temperatures higher. In fact, its effects also made 2024 the hottest year on record. And now forecasts suggest that the coming months could see above normal land temperatures across much of the world, along with sharp shifts in rainfall patterns. And it's raising serious concern for agriculture, water resources, and energy systems. And that's where the real risk starts to unfold. Because when agriculture gets disrupted, the consequences quickly become humanitarian. And there are growing fears that a climate shock driven by El Nino could collide with an already fragile global food system amid the escalating crisis in West Asia and with the disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz, compounding that threat. The UN World Food Programme and the International Monetary Fund have warned that surging fertilizer costs driven by the Iran crisis threaten to push an additional 45 million people into acute hunger. The scale of the crisis is already stark. The latest global report on food crises showing that in 2024 alone, more than 295 million people across 53 countries faced acute hunger, an increase of nearly 14 million from the previous year. Of these, around 1.4 million people are now on the brink of famine. Last week, the UN Secretary General issued an urgent appeal for the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz and renewed dialogue. He warned that the longer disruptions persist, the harder it will be to reverse the damage. Experts suggest that food price inflation will continue to be a persistent issue, the steepest impact likely being felt across 160 countries in 2026. Iran tops the list with a projected 56% surge, far above the global average of 3%, Argentina with 33%, and Turkey with over 25% rank second and third. Countries like Nigeria, Angola, Ethiopia ranking among the highest projected increases this year, and that underscores the ongoing food vulnerability in the region. Separately, UK food inflation is projected to surge. Bank of England surveys suggest a rise 6 to 7% this year, from below 3% before the war. So a rise to 6 to 7% this year from below 3% before the war. However, industry experts warn that it could reach a high of 9 to 10% from the conflict-driven supply shocks. British households, meanwhile, face an estimated extra £275 on grocery bills by the year's end. So what we are witnessing is a convergence of crises. Climate volatility, regional conflict, economic disruption, all feeding into a growing global food emergency ahead. Tech giant Meta Platforms is facing one of its most consequential legal battles yet in the US. In New Mexico, prosecutors are pushing for sweeping changes to how social media platforms operate, especially among young users. At the center of the case is a bold demand: declare Meta's platforms like Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp a public nuisance, quote unquote. This legal label is traditionally used for threats to public health and safety. Now, if this label is granted, then it would basically open the door to major court-ordered reforms and billions of dollars in penalties. The lawsuit was brought by New Mexico Attorney General. He accuses Meta of deliberately designing its platforms to keep young users hooked while failing to protect them from serious implications, including mental health risks and sexual exploitation, allegedly. This trial marks the second phase of a landmark case. Earlier this year, a jury found that Meta had violated consumer protection laws by misleading the public about the safety of its platforms for children and teens. The company was ordered to pay $375 million in damages. Back then, Meta said that it will appeal the verdict. Now prosecutors are asking for far more. They reportedly want nearly $3.7 billion in fine, along with structural changes that could redefine how social media works for minors. Among the proposed reforms, stronger age verification systems, default privacy protections for children, limits on features like autoplay and infinite scrolling, and algorithms redesigned to prioritize healthier and age-appropriate content. There's also a push for increased oversight, including the possibility of a court-appointed monitor to track child safety improvements and requirements that minor accounts be linked to a parent or a guardian. The implications go far beyond one state. This case is being closely watched across the United States, where dozens of similar lawsuits have been filed by state governments, school districts, municipalities. Many are seeking to hold social media companies accountable for growing youth mental health crisis. The stakes could not be higher. A ruling that its platforms constitute a public nuisance could set a powerful precedent for the social media industry. The trial is expected to run for several weeks, in fact, with the judge ultimately deciding whether the company's practices cross the legal threshold into public harm and what must change if they do. Snooker has a new world champion, and it's another Chinese star who ensured the trophy stays in China after beating Sean Murphy in a dramatic final frame decider. The contest was a fitting way to decode the title. They served up the first final frame decider since 2002. It is only the fourth time the showpiece match has reached a concluding frame since the tournament moved to Sheffield's Crucible, which is now regarded as the sport's spiritual home. Wu's breakthrough also coming just a year after Shintong's historic triumph. Wu is the second youngest winner of the world after Stephen Hendry at age 21 in 1990. Now, interestingly, Wu had not won a single match at the Crucible before this year. Wu was regarded as a major talent in China and shifted to Sheffield as a 16-year-old, and it's fitting that the greatest moment of his career came in the British city. He draped himself in a Chinese flag after the victory. Snooker's popularity in China has surged over the past 2 decades, fueled by the success of Ding Junhui, who served as an inspiration to Wu and many Chinese snooker players. Last year, Zhao's championship win was watched by over 200 million people in China. 200 million people. For years, Ding was the lone Chinese player in top-tier tournaments. But now the country has 6 players ranked in the world's top 20 and a host of young talent breaking through. On that note, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas tonight. This is me, Molly Kampir, signing off. Thanks for watching.
In West Asia, every move shifts the world's balance. Wars, ceasefires, alliances, power never stands still. From Tehran to Tel Aviv, from Damascus to Doha, the West Asia Post cuts through the chaos to reveal the region that shapes the world. Because what happens in West Asia never stays in West Asia. This is the West Asia Post, the region's story, the world's impact.
India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
In-depth coverage of global issues broken down into facts, figures, and simple words. Backed with analysis from field experts who truly matter, because we believe in decoding the real picture for you. So you get a much wider and deeper understanding of stories from around the world, a 360-degree analysis. An award-winning documentary series, week after week creating the maximum impact. Watch WION Wide Angle at these times on WION. World is one. Get the latest updates.
Destroy their
Breaking
missiles
news.
and raise their...
Credible, clear, continuous. Experts across aisles. Diverse voices, one platform. WION World is one.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events